Hi everyone, welcome to the Sunday Social. So we've got quite an interesting one for us today. We're going to be talking all about the new Bond watches and maybe some other Bond-related topics. But I would like to introduce my panel. I've got Todd from TikTok Talk. I've got Seiko Todd. And then we've got Dave from Scottish Watches. We've got Justin down below. And then we've got... have you got anything to promote, Justin? Your Instagram, maybe?
Sure. My Instagram is at Morning Watch Milwaukee. MORNING Watch Milwaukee.
There you go. And then we've got Pocket Watch Time, Patrick, who's hit 1,000 subs now. You are in the realm of YouTube has noticed who you are.
Yeah, finally official.
Yeah. Should we kick it off with a wristwatch check? Patrick, do you want to go first? Actually, that seems you're in.
Well, I will, but I've got bad news for you. I have no wristwatch on the hand because I'm at family's house. But I did get something in the post from Australia.
Oh, Australia.
So I'll give you the first look at it since it's the only watch I have in the house, and it is an absolutely gorgeous pocket watch. So this is a Waltham 12 size bridge, which is probably the nicest pocket watch that the Waltham Watch Company made, and some guy in Australia was selling it, and I hit the buy it now before anybody else could, and I'm very pleased with it. And give me 5 seconds, I'll open up the back and you can see how pretty it is. But this is by far the furthest watch that I've ever ordered in terms of traveling. I've made purchases from Japan and some other foreign countries, but Australia I think is on the complete opposite side of the world, so it has traveled the furthest.
Awesome. That's really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Justin, you're up next. What are you wearing?
I'm wearing plain white Datejust. Watch I got for my 10th wedding anniversary. One of my favorites.
Awesome. And that is the correct answer. Dave, what are you wearing?
Seeing as I'll keep it on topic, I am wearing the original 1995 Brosnan Quartz Seamaster 300.
Very nice.
Awesome.
Nice.
From 1995 as well.
Wow. Todd, what are you wearing?
Seiko Todd?
Oh, Seiko Todd.
Seiko Todd. Sorry.
Well, I don't have any Seamasters, but and since Patrick's on too, and I'm at my father's house, so I didn't bring many watches, but I am wearing the Moon Watch.
Ooh.
In honor of Omega.
Very nice.
And Todd, go on. What are you wearing?
Well, Seiko Todd and I were on the same page today. I have my father's 1970s era Moon Watch. It's an original with the original bracelet and everything, and it does need a service. I just noticed today while I was playing with it, but with Omega in mind, I thought I'd wear this original.
Awesome. That's an 861 movement, right?
I have no idea, to be
that
honest.
Would be the 861.
If you could help me figure this out, it's the original first watch in the moon era. Yeah.
861, probably a tritium dial.
Yep. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so it doesn't have that certified for space travel on the back then?
No, it has. Well, it's a different badge on the back. It says first watch in the first watch in the moon. Flight qualified by NASA for all manned space missions. Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Has it got a little T on the dial near the bottom at 6 o'clock?
Yeah, it should be.
Well, now
on the
I
other side.
My reading glasses now, Dave. Yes, it does.
So tritium dialed. Nice.
That's very nice.
Yep.
Yeah, really nice. And then I'm wearing also Datejust but green. Just do it solo. I did actually buy a watch this week. I bought a G-Shock Frogman. But I'm
the new one.
Feeling it. Yeah.
Is it the new titanium anniversary one?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm actually. Have I never? Probably only ever once before I've ever returned a watch, and I think I'm going to return this one. I really just not feeling it in person at all. I've just recorded the review actually, so it'll be out soon. And I also did a little unboxing on the thing. I won't go into it too much, but one of the things that I thought was funny is it's like the 30th anniversary of the Frogman, that version of the Frogman anyway. And the packaging, they've made like a recycled box. So it comes in basically a cardboard box. And it just seems really weird because I reviewed that NASA G-Shock that came in a beautiful tin. And I mean, steel's recyclable as well. And I don't know why they've done it. It just looks really tatty. And anyway, that's the whole separate thing. Well, should we kick this off? Dave, do you want to, should we start with you with this cool event that you went to? You sent some pictures over. So this was an event, this was actually for the launch of this Seamaster, the 60th anniversary Seamaster.
Yeah, so when was it? Probably a couple of months ago, 6-8 weeks ago. One of my friends at Omega said, "Oh, so are you free on this date?" And I was like, yeah, cool, that sounds good. And he said, "Oh yeah, there's something coming up. Something's going to launch, Bond related. Do you want to come along?" And I thought, yeah, that sounds cool. And I'm really lucky enough to get invited along to a few different kind of launches and events and such like. So I kind of chalked it down as, okay, cool, usual fare, come along to the boutique, get shown some cool stuff, and wander off. So stuck it in the diary, thought nothing else of it. Time marches on. Then I suddenly thought, oh, this date's coming up. I've not heard about that date. Drops him a message. He's like, yeah. Just be there on that date. Okay. Any details? No details. Top secret. Okay, that sounds interesting. I thought, okay, they're playing this game or they're just disorganized and don't want to admit it. And literally the day before, I got, okay, here's the hotel you're staying at. Probably the nicest hotel I've ever stayed at in my life. When breakfast costs 166 quid, you're doing life right. And it was like, oh yeah, that was my face pretty much as well. And rocks up at this place, then gets told, okay, went for some dinner, lovely, a few folk, Reynolds there and a few other guys, and I was like, oh, there's an awful lot of big people here from Omega. This is more than meets the eye. Went for dinner, then got told the next morning, be ready at 10:30. Okay, gets picked up. Regent Street Boutique in London, they've just recently reopened it after having the new kind of international corporate fit done. Rocks up at that, up the stairs, private area, and they had the new watches, and we get a full kind of technical presentation of the new watches, including a full breakdown of individual parts of the watch, all the different processes, like they had all the parts at different processes and different points in the production. So real interesting. And I was thinking, oh, this is great. This is fantastic. And then get told, okay, you get a bit of free time now. Be ready at 6:30. Okay. 6:30 comes along and then this arrives, which probably won't focus, but there we go. So this arrives anyway. And it's a little invite from Reynolds to go to dinner. I think, okay, that sounds posh and suitably hoity-toity for me. And then we get picked up and taken along this secret venue, which turns out is a disused London Underground station. And there we go. And in we go. And it was pretty unbelievable. We start getting handed things like this, which obviously gives a code for Spectre and Omega. And we get given little kits. They've all been sealed, which then when we open said kit up, we've got letters from the security services. My focus is not very good on this camera. There we go. And then we're getting kits of all sorts of Spectre tokens and Spectre badges and playing cards from Bond and all sorts of nonsense. And it turned out that, Daniel Craig was there, a whole load of actors from the various Bond movies were there, and it was an interesting party. Let me put it like that.
Wow.
Not what I was expecting, but super cool. And then they obviously introduced the Canopus Gold high jewellery piece at that point in time as well. And we got a hands-on with that. So yes, pretty special event. Pretty privileged to get asked to something like that. And it will get chalked up as, please invite me to anything like that again, because I could get used to living that high life quite quick. Don't also be bankrupt in a day.
It's really cool. So there's some of these, you just talked through some of these. So this was the bit with the components of the watch, was it?
So the kind of story behind the story behind this watch was they took the original, the one I'm wearing. So this original 95 kind of blue dialed aluminium bezeled watch. And then obviously the latest No Time to Die titanium model. And they used them, I guess, both as their kind of idea palette and muse for this new watch. So it's very similar to the No Time to Die watch in terms of technical specification, but instead of being titanium, is steel. Mm-hmm. But it still has the aluminium bezel. So whereas most of the production modern versions of the Seamaster 300 have a ceramic bezel, this has the oxyalic aluminium bezel. So you've got that kind of more vintage look to it. Black to that blue wavy dial, like from the original as well. And what I like about it is there's nothing on the front of it would lead you to believe it was a Bond watch, which is doing it right. I think from the original where, it was pretty much, there's a watch, stick that in the film. Then they went through definitely a phase of over-egging it, in my opinion, things like 007 on the balance weight of the second hands and make it obvious. Then with the latest No Time to Die piece, much more subtle, much more down to earth. This one, nice little nuggets here. So the loom looks white, but the whole loom on the bezel glows blue, except for the 60 at the top, which replaces the usual triangle, which glows green, obviously for that whole 60th anniversary. It's got the kind of Milanese style bracelet, but obviously in steel, not titanium. Similarly, that way, showed you the breakdown of the parts there. And then the big kind of, I guess, part is the case back. And I don't know if you can show the wee video that I sent you through. I don't know if that will work. So you can see here, this is the stages of the case back, from the top, it being the sapphire. Then it gets completely coated in the black, and then they laser ablate away all of the areas. Then they infill the dots in the white to give that kind of classic little dots running along the screen at the start of the Bond film. But this is the second watch that they've done that uses that kind of idea that they've used on the Snoopy watch, where you've got that, I guess, basic automation on the back with a little capsule that spins round. On this one, what they've done is, are you able to zoom in on the disc that's the second one from the bottom?
Yeah.
There you go. You see this little design here that they've kind of they spent a lot of time working out how to do this. And basically what you've got is, on the watch, there's a pinion that runs through from the center second, and it goes right through above the rotor. And then there's a disc that sits above the rotor that's the same size as this inner circle, that's got a black and white kind of spirograph pattern on it. And what happens is it turns with the second hand, and it gives you the effect. There's a 15-second sequence that plays of Bond, shadow and silhouette walking across the dial, or the back of the watch, should I say. And it really does work. It's quite difficult to capture in video, but it works an absolute treat. And it's so every 15 seconds it plays this little loop. And really the only kind of nod to Bond is, this bit on the case back. So when you're wearing it, no one will ever know, but it's got a nice little kind of Easter egg hidden in the back there as well. So I personally think it's a really nicely done piece. Yes, if you're not a Bond fan, or you're not a fan of branded watches, it's maybe not for you. But if you're a Bond fan, it's a cute little nod to what they've done there. I'm really quite pleased with it. It is, I guess, as someone in the comments has said, a wee bit gimmicky, but it's Bond, and it wouldn't be a Bond film if it wasn't gimmicky, would it?
Yeah, absolutely. Mark saying, talk about the dial, Dave. Talk about the dial. I don't know what that means. You mean in terms of is there a special technique that was used to bring back the wave, or is it similar?
No,
to
so
the
original ones were a printed wave dial on them. And then the more recent ones, when they brought the wave back, they're typically ceramic dials that are laser engraved or laser ablated to get the waves on it. This one, though, is, I guess, like a bit of a compromise in that it's an oxalic aluminium dial that's then laser ablated into it. So it's kind of using the new laser ablation, but with that feeling you get from an aluminium dial. It's just, I guess, a little bit less clinical than maybe a kind of ceramic dial in there as well. So it definitely feels much more like the original one. But the original one, albeit printed, when you look at it under magnification, it's not the sharpest dial in the book compared to what you can do these days. So, but it's definitely, for me, it had that kind of warmth, and I guess it looked quite close to that original, where some of the newer ones are much more clinical.
Yeah, I wonder if I don't know if it shows the animation on the. Oh, so I see. Yeah, so it comes together. Yeah, so I wonder if it actually shows it on the. Oh, I'll switch the volume off. I wonder if it'll show it on the actual thing. Maybe not. Anyway,
yeah, I think, like as Mark says in the comments, interference patterns and digital video don't go well together, I don't think. So that's probably the issue.
Yeah, absolutely. But you can certainly see the loom there that you were talking about with the 60 glow. It's funny, isn't it, that they're celebrating the 60th of Bond, but they weren't the watch for the entire time. It's really a homage to the 95, isn't it? So it probably coming up to 30 years in couple of years' time.
I guess they've kind of blended. It's the 60th anniversary of Bond, so they want to signify that. And then they've used, really, I guess, from the first watch they used to the most up-to-date watch that they used, and kind of tried to bring that together to have a piece that reflected, I guess, Omega's history with the kind of franchise, but also noting that it is the kind of 60th anniversary of the franchise as well. So I think Omega have got good in the last recent history of getting less in your face with things and kind of a bit more, okay, we've not been there forever, but, you know, they've been there for a long time now. You know, it's 95 to now is a fair stretch of time.
Yeah, and you got to see some of the other, I'll throw it up for questions to the panel a bit, but you got to see, I'll try and pull it up, but you got to see quite a cool, some of the actual Bond watches that were they screen used, or were they replicas of the ones that were screen
No,
used?
these were the ones that were from the screen, from the actual film. So they had the original, the very original, that quartz watch that was used in the original film. So they had that, and it was a stock watch. There was nothing fancy about it, nothing done to it. It was quite literally a straight off the peg, the same one that I'm wearing, the same one that lots of people out there have got and wear. So it was just nice to see that was the one. Then they had a couple from, I believe they were both from the 99 movie. Now, what would that be? That would be, was that Die Another Day?
Yeah. There was I think the one with the one that we're showing here is The World Is Not Enough. I think it might have been from The World Is Not Enough.
I'll tell you, because I've got little notes, so excuse me while I quickly look up the notes, and I will tell you exactly, because we get given a little document and my memory is like a sieve at the moment. So
well, I'll play this really cool video actually whilst we're talking about it.
The world is not enough. So this watch was from that film from 99, as was the other one. Now, what they were pretty open and honest about was, on these watches, Omega themselves didn't do the modifications. They were done by the prop department of the production company for the film. So what happened was Omega purely supplied the watches, and then the AON production actually, or the props team, did all the modifications. So on this one here, this was the one with the scene where he used like as a grappling hook. And actually what it's saying was he had a whole harness on with the wire coiled up and the explosives and the charge, etc. And then this was integrated into the back of the watch, and he had a trigger hidden on his finger that allowed him to actually fire it, and it would fire. Obviously, detached all of that stuff. So that was that one. Other than the kind of modifications to the case back, that one is a stock watch. The other one, which is this one here, I think I maybe turn it over and you can see that this was a scene where the LEDs come on, but you can see when you see the back of the watch, you can see it here. This was modified. So they took the case back off and they drilled out and inset all of the LEDs into the dial, then put this battery pack, and you can see the loom, so that you had, this wire was up his sleeve. And when you see this watch in the film, you'll notice all you see is very close-up video work. There's no kind of like wide-angle shots or anything of it. So they had to try and hide this gargantuan contraption that they bolted onto the back of the watch to get it to work. But it was just nice to see these things, and it was nice that they were kind of, again, just been really open and going, hey, at this point in time, we just supplied watches and they did what they did to it. So I guess it shows you how far things have come as well in terms of, earlier days of product placement to where we are now.
Yeah, Kent said this is the thickness of the new Rolex diver.
So I was going to say, it's thinner than Rolex.
It's probably still thinner than that, to be honest with you. I'm going to guess it's not. I'm going to guess you probably don't want to take this diving, or else it will be a shocking experience.
Oh, that was a pun right out of a Bond film.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I've been waiting for that one.
Well, yeah. I mean, I suppose I'll throw it to the panel now. Well, any questions for Dave first, and then also, what does everyone think of the new watch?
Well, I want to talk about the other one, that ridiculous yellow and green one.
Okay.
This one feels like just like a real swipe at Rolex, and a lot of levels. And are we going to call this like the 7-Up? What is this? The new lemon lime? So they can compete with the Sprite. And it's just the most. I guess I struggle with spending so much money on a gimmick. Like, that is just next level gimmick.
Does it give you the price?
It's
I saw it on
137,000 UK.
Ooh,
it is no joke.
That's absurd.
What I will say is this: the pictures do it no justice. Is this my type of watch? Absolutely not. Is it in the hand in the real world? Absolutely amazing. Absolutely, it is. Full canopus gold case, full canopus gold Milanese bracelet and clasp. All of the crowns are gold as well. I think if I remember rightly, it's around 480 grams in weight. So it's far from light. This thing is significant in weight. 5.88 carats of natural diamonds. The white diamonds, obviously, at the 12 o'clock. And then all of the diamonds are stained to this color palette. And the whole kind of muse again for this watch was Fleming's home in Jamaica, which he famously did on, in the latter part of his life, and it's to give that kind of nod to Fleming. And then the dials are synthetically grown silicon dials, so every dial is different, and they're grown silicon wafers that kind of use a lot of the technologies that's used in the silicon industry for kind of silicon wafers. So it's Marmite for sure. Love it, hate it. I'm no fan of diamond, kind of bezels. But these things, when you suddenly see one in real life and you look at the kind of quality and craftsmanship that's gone into it, and you think, yes, 137,000 is a horrific amount of money. But then, was it Harry Kane, the English footballer, was spotted at the World Cup wearing a near £500,000, Rolex, which is, let's be honest, not materially that different. It's a gold diamond encrusted watch, and maybe a diamond dial on it, I think. But it's a lot of money. But when you start getting into this kind of territory, it's all crazy money, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's interesting, isn't it? Because I thought this was meteorite to start with, just by glancing at it, and I thought that this was the similar process that Rolex used, where they got different sapphires of gradient dial sapphires. They're gemologists, but you actually said they're diamonds that have been dyed, or I don't know how.
Yeah, so they use a dyeing process that allows them to kind of effectively inject dye to color the stones. So they can control the color palette on them.
I'll be Captain Buzzkill on that. I think that's absolutely horrible. And I mean, as I said, it's not even it, because looking at the watch, the first thing that just comes to my mind is, what the hell are they doing? Because they've got some silicon dial that just looks completely out of place. They've got a Jamaica color scheme, which I don't mind that. But then tie it into the dial. A black and white camo with, Jamaica colors doesn't make sense. And then the fact that they aren't color matched either stones, but they're artificially colored. That takes everything that, and I'm not a Rolex or an Omega fanboy, but that takes everything that's kind of neat about the Rolex model and just makes it fake. They might as well just be fake diamonds, because you've now made those diamonds worthless, because they don't even have inherent value anymore, because you color treated them. So they're just, I can't say it enough. I hate it.
I agree with you. And what Chris J said too, you go that far and then do a mesh bracelet that has just the straight end links, and it kind of like falls flat for me. Like if you're going to go $137,000, you want something that looks like it's cohesive part of the watch.
I mean, it's a feat of engineering. They're making the Milanese out of white gold, I imagine. I can't
They
imagine
did that. They've done that
gold,
on the Patek ellipses and stuff for 30, 40 years. So there's nothing.
Really?
There's nothing new about that.
Yeah.
So as I said, it's I don't know. As I said, there's nothing technically impressive besides they've got their fake proprietary gold on there, which to me is no better than normal gold. It's just
Well, he's going harder than I thought.
Oh, I said I saw this watch and it's exactly, I think you said it, Sam. I was just like, can they copy sort of a Rolex and now even an AP, because AP just did that with their new Royal Oaks, which I similar to think are hideous, but this colored stone thing is just not good. And you can do it well, and I definitely do not think Omega did it well.
Well, for the record, I don't think I made that comment. I definitely want to get invited to Omega events.
I mean, I think let's be honest. They know fine well this watch is yin yang, and they know that they'll make a small number of them, and folk who want them. I know for a fact there are considerably more than you can imagine already old, and it's taste, no taste, whatever. Personally, that watch with a gold relief bezel, I think would be absolutely awesome. It would still be ridiculously expensive, but if you had that kind of relief style bezel in white gold, maybe with the the 10 through the 60 on it, no lume or anything on it, but in white gold with that dial, personally, I think that would be an absolutely outstanding looking watch with a ridiculous price tag nonetheless. But hey, I'm with all of you guys who say you're not fans of stone encrusted bezels. It's not my thing either. Don't like it. The only thing the way they could have ruined that watch for me was to put diamond dots where the lume pips are. But yeah, they managed to obviously hold the designer back on that one.
Well, I wonder why they went with the silicon dial, because looking at that, you would think that silicon would be for watch companies that perhaps had a range of watches that they wanted to put meteorite on but couldn't afford it. It seems like a poor man's meteorite. I don't know whether. Oh,
I don't know. I'm going to guess that those dials will not be cheap to produce by any stretch of the imagination either. Meteorite's one of these materials that gets oft put out as being ludicrously expensive, and there are really inexpensive watches with genuine meteorite dials out there. I think the watch industry has a ability to sometimes take materials that aren't intrinsically worth much and decide that they're going to be worth much because they decide to tell us they're worth much. And I think meteorite dials is one of those things.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Got Seiko Todd, you're the resident Omega fan. Well, we're all fans of Omega, but you're the one that has at least has one that you're wearing. And
yeah, I have several, and so I mean, is part of the reason for doing this just to make a statement that you're making a watch that nobody's going to want, but some people will want to have? Is that the right way to say that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
maybe because it's so garish. You know what it reminds me of? I was just looking at this short time ago. Is the Seiko Street Series? So you look at the Seiko Street Series and put colored stones on one of them. I'm real close to this. Seiko 5 with the Seiko 5. I think with the way the dial is, I look at this. It's like gold plating a car, in a way. Okay, that's fascinating. You've done this, but I have no interest in it whatsoever. I don't know what to say.
I guess for me, this watch is aimed the same as many of these types of watches. It's aimed at people that aren't concerned about spending 140, 130, 140,000 pound on a watch. To them, that's probably like most people spending £3,000 or £4,000 on a watch. So it's just for the sake of being different. It's not going to exactly be production. They'll make them to order, broadly speaking. So whether they sell one or sell 100, it'll be of little relevance, and they'll never disclose how many do or don't sell. So it's a project piece. We're talking about it. The press has covered it. It's done its job. It's a promotional vehicle.
Yes,
That's essentially what it is. You know, as you know, most folk are looking at the steel piece and going, "Oh yeah, that's cool," and a lot of folk will buy the steel piece, and commercially that will do the job for them. And this is the watch that most folk will blether about and hate it and love it and X, Y, and Z. But it keeps, I guess, in the news cycle, and that's exactly what it's designed to do.
Yeah, I see it almost as an extension of what they've been doing with those solid gold Speedmasters. And like, it feels like Omega is firing in a lot of directions this year with like the Moon Swatch, with those
the Speedmaster
like minute repeaters.
Yeah.
People
at Omega are going to get really upset if you say they're responsible for the Moon Swatch. Oh no!
Omega's name has been all over this year, high, low, everywhere, and it feels like this is another attempt by them to say, you know, we can do what Rolex does, we can do what Patek does. You know, we are as good as them. Whether or not people are interested in it, I think it's a statement from them.
Yeah,
it's interesting though, because they've effectively done.
Sorry, Dave. I'll read that comment. Adrian put a good comment here. He put the only thing more ridiculous than this watch is the marketing that accompanied it. I don't know whether I didn't see any of the marketing that accompanied with it. Was that a thing, Dave? Or was it a bit nauseating, the marketing?
Do you know, actually, interestingly, at the event, there was very little fanfare given to this. In the broad scheme of the launch, it was all about the steel watch, the actual kind of serious part of the day for the press and for everyone during the day in the watch. It was just the steel watch. That one wasn't there. They didn't show it. They didn't talk about it. They didn't introduce it. That was only on view at the event in the evening. So I think they were very much saying, this is the watch commercially that we want to work and will work, the steel one. And this was really just a kind of like, here's a flashy event, here's a flashy watch that goes with the event, and it's kept it in the news cycle, and therefore it's done exactly what it should do. You know, I think that very much is what it's about. It's interesting though, because they did the Speedmasters in gold with the stone set bezels, and they've almost completely bypassed most of the news cycles. And, you know, that for me, they are really good when you see those with the red ruby bezels. Some of those are absolutely outstanding, and they shouldn't work, and they really do work.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing that one. You said it's a Speedmaster with a ruby bezel.
They've done a set of different ones with different stone bezels on them, and they've only made 12 of each, and they're by invite only.
Oh, wow. And yeah, I can't even find it. I can't easily find it on the website unless it's in the novelties section.
Adrian just keeps killing it with his comments too. I mean,
yeah,
it is like
Adrian's not loving it.
Well, but what Justin said, it does feel like, look, we're as cool as Rolex is what this is coming off as. Like, we can do it when they don't have to do that. They have a far superior movement. They have better technically watches, but it's kind of like, I don't know. It feels like kind of what Adrian's video is like. Well, we want to be as big as Rolex. We're as good, and they're trying at anything to kind of swing up, strike upward.
It's like Ford versus Ferrari, a little bit of, we're going to win Le Mans. We're going to do it this way, and in a way.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Okay. So now we can talk about the steel one.
The steel one's great.
Yeah,
the steel one genuinely is great.
Yeah, I don't know. I won't have a rant about why are they taking the date off these watches? I mean, James Bond would need the date. I mean, he's traveling like, internationally. He's in, South Korea one day, and then, next. I don't know why they've decided to take the date off these watches. It always had the date. Like the original had the date. There's no need to. Anyway, rant over.
He's getting the date in his earpiece right from HQ.
That's right. You can't make the explosives and the grappling require and all that work in the watch if you have a date, Sam. Come on, you only have so much room in the watch.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Where are you going to put the laser?
That's right. Where are you going to put the laser?
And the grappling hook. But even the grappling hook watch had the date on it. And the laser, when he's lasering out of the train in Goldeneye, which I think is one of my favorite James Bond films, that had the date on it. He was in Russia then, and he needed to know the time when he was in that tank. He needed to know the date. Well, the note. I know the No Time to Die didn't have the date on it either, and I wasn't a fan of. I know Adrian saying that he liked the No Time to Die one. I wasn't a fan of it. I wasn't a fan of that like faux Tina look on it. I think they went too over the top with it. But I'd really like the look of this. I think if I had the date, I would definitely probably put this on my wish list. But yeah, I'm not sure why they took the date off, but I'm sure there's a reason.
I wondered about the No Time to Die though, because I don't know if it was Fotina or just a color choice, because the color looked beautiful. That dial looked beautiful, and that cream felt good.
I tend to agree with you. I don't think they've delivered on for this Fatina thing. I think it's because it's those kind of browns and those kind of earthy colors. They've gone for a loom that gives a much more blend. I think if they'd gone for a white loom, it would have been so harsh against that kind of warm color, and it would just have been too in your face. And I think just softening down the loom color on it is more just to blend it in terms of color palette, personally. And I'm no fan of Fatina. It's not my thing, but I love the No Time. The No Time to Die watch is so exceptionally good, I think. And I know folk are very yin and yang about the whole mesh bracelet thing on it. And personally, it's very comfortable and I do like it. Do I wish it was integrated into the case? I'm not so sure. I just don't know whether, you couldn't have the mesh going into that. So you'd have to have this kind of almost muckle end link that was quite chunky, then suddenly get into this quite delicate mesh band. And I actually don't think that would work. I think having that thinner, just straight connector just is more sympathetic to the style of the mesh band, personally, anyway. And I'm not usually a fan of that style of bracelet either. I like a fitted end link. But I just think it works.
I agree. I think as a fitted end link, and it wouldn't look like a Milanese, because Milanese usually are, not style. Fitted, and so it really would sort of be a little off-putting. But they could do the little chunky link, because I mean that's what our good friends Rolex do with all of their integrations and all of their rubber bands, which we call straps, and et cetera. But they always put a little piece there to make it fit.
Yeah, I think the mesh works here. Like it works very well on this watch. I'm just talking about a $137,000 watch. I want a little more thought put into the bracelet. Is where I'm at.
Yeah, I guess, but it's a difficult one. I mean, someone's made a comment saying, the steals for the fanboys, the gem set's going to show up on the Instagram feed and footballers. I actually don't think. Give it another week or so, and I don't think you'll barely see that watch ever make an appearance again.
I agree.
I don't think it's a footballer watch. I think it's the wrong brand for a footballer watch. I don't think they'll buy it for that reason. And I think it's literally been done as a look at this. And, it's done the job. Like, as I keep saying, it's done the job they want. We're now half a week out since that event. And, usually 24 hours after an event, most watches are off the radar and you're on to the next thing. And we're still talking about this one.
Yeah. Sorry, Justin, you were gonna dive in.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say I love the mesh bracelet on this. It feels to me, with the end links the way they are, it reminds me of the Submariner that Connery wears, where you can see the spring bars with that tiny little almost NATO he's got on it. It makes me feel like it is paying tribute to the 60th anniversary more so than just the Omega years. I mean, I'm sure that's reading a bit much into it, but it makes me think of that.
Yeah, I've always liked Milaneses. I think it's one of the straight end ones that belongs to be straight end. I think it would look weird if you had like a Milanese that fitted it. I'm not sure. It's not like a true mesh, is it? Where it has like a buckle that attaches it. It connects almost like a traditional kind of watch strap with all the holes, which I don't know, Dave, is that weird in person the way it connects?
So there's effectively what it's like. So you've got one side that comes up in the camera, which has got the holes in it. And then you've got a pretty conventional style Omega deployment clasp. Let's see if I can get that to focus. Bring it up to my face. There we go. And then, it's a fold over clasp. I guess the good thing is you don't need to cut it or anything, and also unlike the normal ones, I've got that kind of, I guess, quite inexpensive little flip lever that you slide up and down that you're more used to seeing. I guess this is slightly more premium, arguably, but it does work and it is comfortable. And I was dubious about its comfort when I got that watch. I thought, bet you that's really uncomfortable after you wear it for a while, but actually it's pretty comfortable, to be honest with you. And I'm not, I think I'm with some of you in that I find it comfy and I like it, but there's also certain bits of it I'm not entirely sure about, but it works for me on that watch.
Yeah, I like this. I was thinking I've handled the No Time to Die in person, and I'm like you, Dave. I like the watch. I didn't like the price at the time. I'm trying to remember what it was. But it was definitely a premium.
It was like 8,000 something,
It's
9,200.
9,200. That's what I was going to say. It was a $9,200 watch. It has the fake broad arrow on the front, which to me is a little heretical because I have real military watches, and this is not a real military watch.
Well, I can tell you an interesting story about that in terms of there was a delay of the release of this watch. What's the phrase they use in British television? Allegedly, that's the one we use. Allegedly, there was a delay in the release of this watch, all down to that very issue, because obviously the broad arrow, you know, people, I guess it's become infamous with military, but actually it's, you know, the mark of crown property, which is what its true designation is. It marks property as belonging to the crown of the state. You know, it's used also on flagstones of buildings where they're crown buildings as well. And there was a question and debate had about the ability to actually use it on this watch, and it turns out it has been officially endorsed to be used. So whilst it's not a real military watch, you know, they have the permission to use it, because you can't go, it turns out apparently you can't just go whacking it on things and selling it and getting away with it.
Yeah, so, I've got a CWC with the broad arrow on the back, I think. The crow's foot.
Yeah. But it turns out that permission was granted for them to use it, and they have. And I guess it falls into the narrative. You know, Bond is a fictional character, but he is a, you know, military stroke, you know, intelligence agency character. So I guess it's trying to fit in with that whole narrative.
Yeah, and I suppose the brown as well. I mean, I don't personally like it, but you were. It fits in with the film because he's definitely more. It's more. There's more sort of wooded environments and things like that, isn't it? And he's retired and he's more kind of, you know, it fits in with the film less than he's not in a suit and for a lot of the time, is he? And he in the end he's more or less in a casual, you know, casual jumper and stuff like that. He's not in the suit all the time like Brosnan was.
Yeah, and they're kind of taking a little bit of not an inspiration, but the same idea as the old Doxa armies, where they had a sort of an off-white creamy color because, you know, white is just dumb to have on your wrist as a military person because you've got this giant white flag sticking out for everyone to see. So even though it does sort of have the color of Fotina, I think it actually makes sense on the watch because it does make it less conspicuous. It's a bit of a camouflage.
Yeah, I've held one of these also, and I wasn't sure about it beforehand, but having held it in hand, the color really works with the titanium. Like it just pulls together nicely. The tannish womb, it goes well with the dial, with the case. I like it.
Yeah. Mark's asked a question here. He says the script Omega boutiques used to sell the No Time Today was quite funny. The obligatory touch points needed careful memory, which most staff didn't have. I don't know what that refers to. Was there
harsh but fair?
So was there an actual proper like script, a story that went with it as they were talking about the watch? Because the problem, and I think it might have been Adrian that mentioned this. I think he might have mentioned it on one of his Effing Time podcasts. Was that this fell victim to the fact that the watch was released, but then the film was delayed because of COVID, wasn't it? For 2 years, I think the film was delayed, wasn't it? So this watch was out for a long time before you realized its kind of significance it played in the film itself. Because I don't think in the film it had any special it didn't have any special gadgetry, did it? I don't think to it, or did it?
No, but if you remember, I think the line in the film actually was when he was handed the watch by Q, the quartermaster, and kind of said, "Oh, here's your watch." And I think the joke, which was a nod to the ridiculously of past films, was I think he said something to the effect of, "What does it do?" And he looked at it and he went, "It tells the time, Bond."
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that
I
was
think
the kind of
yeah, that was the good. That was one of the things that the Daniel Craig's brought to the films that Daniel Craig was in had a lot more realisticness to them, didn't they? Where you could actually imagine that a lot of the gadgets he had would actually work in reality, whereas the previous Bonds, some of them were quite. I guess the gadgets were far-fetched. I'm thinking of like Skyfall, where it was almost like a completely not even a Bond film. It was like an excellent action film. So I guess we kind of went past the blue one. So do we all think that the where are we? Here we are. So what do we think in terms of? Do we think this is going to be a big seller, or because I don't know how well? I don't know, Dave. Do you know this? How well do the James Bond watches sell in general? I mean, I've only ever reviewed one, and that was the gorgeous Aqua Terra. That was I don't think it was to its. I think it was Spectre, but it was more of a homage to Bond, the Bond family, because it had the family crest on the second hand, and it was one of my favorite Omegas I've ever reviewed.
Yeah, I think for Spectre there was two, wasn't there? There was the first time, not the Seamaster 300, but the kind of other Seamaster family they used with the Spectre with the lollipop hand, which is a lovely watch on that NATO strap. And then they had that, Aqua Terra with the kind of crested coat of arms with the blue and the little pops of yellow on it as well, which was it was a lovely watch as well. But I think they sell pretty well. They put a lot of money into Bond and they put a lot of money into producing watches every film. My guess is they wouldn't be doing it, 27 years later, if it wasn't commercially successful for them, would be my reading of the situation.
Yeah, it seems to be that all of these are still available. That perhaps there was that one that we've spoken about.
I'd be curious from the standpoint of just thinking from a marketing perspective and people's nature, if it's not attached directly to a specific film where I can sit on my couch and go like, there's my watch, where it's just sort of celebrating the overarching with Bond, if it does as well as maybe some of the other ones that are directly related to a specific film.
Yeah, I think these ones probably sell in relatively modest numbers. This one, there was a Commander watch, if you remember, that wasn't associated directly to a film either. And you don't see them kicking about there. I'm going to guess they don't produce and or sell big numbers of those ones. Yeah. The ones that are tied to a film, like the Spectre one holds a premium. If you want to get your hands on one of the Lollipop Spectres, expect to pay over retail for it. Albeit it was a limited edition release on that one, but they've also seemed to get past that. A lot more of what they do now is kind of limited production, or certainly they just kind of bleed them into the market in smaller numbers. I know a few folk are saying that their local boutiques have got no time to die watches in it. They were quite hard to get for a while, and I think they've begun to become a little bit more available now.
Yeah, when I was in Little Switzerland, I'm sorry. I was in Little Switzerland during COVID. I went down there in St. Thomas to see. We stayed at Dean Bump's place there, Sam, and that's when I picked up my Bucherer, and he had they had in a little crystal case. They had a No Time to Die watch. This was before the movie came out, and he said, "Yeah, I mean, he didn't at the time. They didn't have a lot of activity or people looking for that watch at the moment, but I mean, it probably came on more during the movie when it came out. But I looked at it, and to me, again, somebody mentioned this before, is the James Bond premium worth it for these watches? And I don't know if it is. At least historically, I don't know if it has been, in my opinion. Though this new one with the animation on the back is pretty cool. How much more is that? More than a regular Seamaster? Is that a couple grand more than a regular one?
Yeah, so it's 7,200, wasn't it? And then the normal 300, I think, is around the 5. Is it? Yeah, 5,400. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's worth it to me. And Omega's not going to give you any discounts anymore. So, yeah, to me, that's one of the sticking points. And that's a perfectly fine looking watch right there. And I like it preferably with the Seamaster bracelet and $5,400. Yeah, to me I'd jump on that before I would a Bond watch.
I agree.
Yeah,
I'll throw in my 2 cents as the most abusive to the cannabis gold opinion. I really like the new 60th anniversary, and I would pay the premium over the normal band because I think the Milanese just looks so cool. So I actually really don't have too much of a gripe with the new watch at all. And as I said, I'm not an Omega fanboy, and I don't even really watch James Bond movies. So, there's nothing about that watch that sells to me, but I think the watch itself is gorgeous. The animation on the back I love because it's just on the back. So you could still buy the watch and like it for the watch, and sure, it's got something spinning on the back, great. But it doesn't make me go ooh, because same thing with you, Todd, with No Time to Die. I collect antique watches, and that military service arrow means something to me. So having that on the No Time to Die kind of is a buzzkill. So even though it's not an in-your-face James Bond, it still has something fake on it. Where the 60th anniversary, the only thing they did was put a different color lume on the 60, which is perfect. That's like exactly what I want. Subtle, but beautiful. So I'm actually a big fan of that. So look at that. I hate one and I love another.
I wonder if this YouTube video, it's views from Mark. I think this shows the animation. So there he is. So he's walking across.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
it's a hit for me. I like it. I think I'm not sure it's worth all of the premium, but I think it's worth a premium for Bond for the 60th anniversary. I am a fan of Bond. I like it. I think it's fun. It makes me think of all those years watching Brosnan. I really like it. I was lucky enough to be able to hold an original one from '95, like Dave has. Last night at a family dinner, my cousin's husband has one that he got when he graduated high school and still wears it.
Wow.
The battery is actually dead on it because he and his wife both changed jobs and they redid their basement this year. And so the battery died and he just hasn't gotten around to changing it. But he still wears the watch.
That's the one I want to chase down, actually. I want one of those old quartz 90s ones.
Yeah. I wonder if there'll be a premium, because it was like with the original X33, I kept looking for one, and then they went up with one in the Dragon, and it got the premium overnight. So I wonder whether they've gone up those quartz ones.
Yeah, maybe.
They definitely have. Probably about 10 years ago, you could pick them up for not a lot of money, and they have been incrementally increasing in value for the last few years. They're still not crazy money by any stretch, but they've held their own. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, I would really like a. I might. Oh, better not. I might start looking for one. I shouldn't. I'll stop. I'll forget after this conversation. Well, that was really cool. Have we got any final thoughts on it? So we think it's going to be a big hit. We like it. I'm just being picky about the date. And it's got a cool back on it. So I wonder whether are they limited edition or are they like limited production?
No, I don't even think they're particularly limited production. I'm going to guess for the first couple of months they'll be a wee bit pushy to get, just because more people will want them than are necessarily available. If you wait to probably Q1, Q2 next year, you'll pretty much be able to walk into certainly any of the boutiques and probably pick one up if you want pretty quickly.
Yeah, and we didn't mention about it's got a domed sapphire on it, which is different than the normal ones, is it?
Yeah, got a slightly kind of domed sapphire on it, more like the No Time to Die, which it works pretty well. And I see there's a few folk making comment, like Mark saying about the aluminium bezels maybe a step back, but they did make quite a big song and dance about the treatment process they've got now. Compared to the original ones, which were really just kind of an anodized aluminium dial that would kind of fade out over time. These ones have got a kind of quite a specific aluminium hardening process, and I guess as many folk will know as well, coatings that are used these days in watches. You know, it used to be if you got a PVD watch, you could guarantee pretty quick it would start rubbing off. The coatings that they've got nowadays are pretty durable. It has to be said. You know, there's been big advancements in the kind of durability of a lot of the things now, and they're pretty damn tough. And this, I think they called it an oxyalic treatment that's been devised for them that is used in I think high intensity chemical areas where they're exposed to very corrosive chemicals and piping work and stuff. And it's designed to protect against these high grade materials. So if it's good for acids, it's probably okay in your wrist.
So it's thicker than a thin. It's a thicker aluminium, is it, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, well, I mean, to be fair, if you look, it won't come up well in this. My original one, the bezel is very faded. The blue is markedly faded on this.
Yep.
Let's see if I can focus it. And it's got a couple of little hairline scratches here and there, and albeit 20 plus years old. This, on the other hand, is an aluminium bezel, and the No Time to Die as well, with the same treatment on it. And I've washed it about, and there's not a mark on it. There's literally not a mark on it. So they seem to have mastered. I'm sure if I went to town with a diamond on it, I could probably mark it. But day-to-day wear, things like that, there's not a mark on it. So I'm going to guess that come up with a pretty good treatment process for it. And it does definitely have ceramic bezels are cool, but they look. I find them very clinical. They're very sanguine.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you had a Rolex with a faded bezel, a Rolex Pepsi, that'd be an extra $5,000 on top of the price, wouldn't it? If it went to magenta.
Yeah.
So
really as I say, it's one of those ones where, advancements aren't always better. Like some of these modern watches are so unscratchable and clinical that 20 years later it's going to look exactly the same as when you had it. So you'll not have that little kind of fun of just seeing day to day in the watch anymore.
Yeah.
I like the aluminum bezel. I think it's nice. I think it, like Dave was saying, I think it's a good step backwards. It brings warmth to the watch. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I want Sam to buy an old one, and then when he gets tired of it in 6 months, he can sell it to me.
Wow, 6 months is a long time for me.
Yeah,
I don't know if I
long
can
time.
I don't know if I can commit to 6 months. Well, I have scratched the bezel on my my date just so now it's part of me.
Might as well let it go now for nothing,
Yeah, and it hasn't even got. It's even got a dodgy aftermarket band.
I'll cut you out of the loop. Just pay for it, and I'll give you my shipping address. No problem.
Well, I mean,
saves you a set of postage.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, not that this is the subject for this, but I think there's a lot of feeling that the Rolex might be freeing up, that they might be a little bit more ready available. But that's, I'm sure, as a topic for another time.
Yeah, a global recession tends to do that, to be fair.
Yeah. And a crypto crash of some sort also helps.
Yeah, just at the front end.
Yeah, I shouldn't laugh. I've lost a Rolex worth of crypto over the last couple of months, though. Anyway, awesome. Well, that was absolutely fantastic. A big thanks to everyone on the panel and everyone who was very, very active in the comments. And Dave, thanks for bringing all those really cool photos. What an amazing event to get to go to.
Sure, thanks. I was very privileged to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're all free as well, Omega, if you're doing it at a US one. Florida's lovely at this time of year. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye.